hits and crits.
What do you think about the boxes in general, especially S tier, A tier? As you said before, there are not many boxes in the C or D tier. So
No.
let's just sum this up. As a new player buying into FreeFolk, what is your perspective on it?
The one thing I can say with FreeFolk is that when buying into FreeFolk, there just aren't that many bad decisions. Like a lot of the time when I'm giving advice and talking about like, oh, what should I do next? What should I do here? The answer is do what you want. Like, and I know that sounds like a cop-out answer from advice, but it really is true. Do you want to be aggressive and shove units in your opponent's face that do a lot of damage? Look at Spearwives. Look at Cave Dweller Savages. Do you want to play a slower game that's a little bit more defensive, that uses, tactics to try and outmaneuver your opponent? Well, things like Chariots and even Thens to some extent can do that. Want to play a game which is more defensive and just very plod along? Get some Thens, maybe some, Follows a Bone if you want a heavy hitter included within that. None of these things are bad options. Not even Mammoths are a bad option. There are things you can do, and if you want to play that way, you can. That's the beauty with FreeFolk. That being said, there are boxes I wouldn't buy myself here today if I was push comes to shove making a competitive list. And that's purely because I think the competitive sphere for FreeFolk is quite small if you're trying to do really, really well. But that's also because we are a faction that unfortunately has tended towards spam style strategies. And that's always been the case.
Mm-hmm.
We see the suggestions of bear spam. We've had raider / trapper spam, trap spam, chariot spam. These are all strategies that have existed over the years. And the key is they always include the word spam.
Yeah.
And that's just the way FreeFolk has been. And yeah,
I think that is an absolutely lovely perspective to just close it down with do whatever you want, because we don't really have a box that is really, really bad. And FreeFolk offers such a variety of playstyles, of options, of different models. We got animals, we got infantry, we got giants, we got skin changes. So there is a lot of things to try out, to play around, and just to fiddle a bit with the list building, which would be the exact transition, because we are now going to build 1 or 2 or maybe 3 lists. And yeah, I would just switch over and would listen to you. If you are going to a tournament, let's say you have the opportunity to go to the LGT, what lists would you bring and why? So just lead us a little bit into your insights on the list construction and what you think about which unit and why to include it.
So, okay. First and foremost, if I was going to a tournament tomorrow or the weekend and I wanted to win the event, my gut reaction, my gut feeling is to say I need to run a form of spam, high activation list that conforms with the meta, conforms with what FreeFolk do. That's what people will expect. Then I need to run a list that throws expectation into the wind. And runs things that some people won't understand how to beat because they won't have seen how it plays. I'm a big fan of gameplay thinking, not just list building. So I'm thinking about how I use each component in the list build when I'm building the list.
So like analyzing
with that
the
in
meta
mind,
and then
analyzing the meta
them
somewhat as well. Yeah. So my first thing, so spam list in my head means we're going down the route of bears and we're going down the route of lots of units. So commander that works for spam. Previously we've had Mance, previously we've had Steer. I'm not interested in either of those, I think. I think the kind of thing that I'm looking to use here is Harmer. I'm probably going to look at a Harmer list, I think. Yeah. Maybe Tormund, not sure. But we'll go for Harmer for now.
For now, yeah.
Right. First thing we do... I mean, actually, no. In truth, the spam list, let's go Varamir. Let's just play the Varamir card. I think I probably would run a Varamir list instead of a Harmer list. Yeah. So we get Varamir, which means the Shadow Cat and the Wolf Pack come into the list as well. And we immediately know we're running spam, so we pick up 2 raided units.
All right.
In both raiders, we run skin changes.
Of course, because more animals are always good.
More bear equals more good.
All right.
We then pick up raiders with Brock.
Mm-hmm. Of course,
And we add the
we
boar.
can't bring Brorik without his boar.
We can, but I'm not thinking this. I'm thinking like the meta that I'm analyzing is a FreeFolk light meta. I'm not thinking there's going to be many mirror matchups. Interesting thing I should point out, by the way, when building your lists, you have to consider the mirror matchup as a potential option. Bearing in mind there are 10 factions in the game now, your odds of facing any one faction are 1 in 10 without analyzing meta. Right? Stark and Lannister are more common, as are Baratheon. Your meta might vary, but the general consensus on games played, Baratheon, Stark, and Lannister are higher. So you should always have lists that go to face those kinds of things because you're likely to see them. Targaryen Night's Watch are lower, neutrals are lower, Boltons are lower. Greyjoys are higher than the rest of those ones I've just mentioned, as are oh my god,
Martell?
Can't think of the name. Martells, thank you. Martells and Greyjoys are going to see higher play rates than like the other lot I've mentioned, but less than your Baratheon, Lannister, and Stark. And then you've got kind of the rest of them, including FreeFolk in that tier. FreeFolk are still a viable option, though, into a general field that you are going to see and going to play, and you have to think about the mirror. There are reasons why the boar is bad in the mirror, and that comes down to activation advantage and activations. That's not to say that it's a bad choice, but you have to think about the mirror, and it isn't good in the mirror. Okay?
Yep.
Sorry, that was a long way of explaining something very simple.
No worries. So we got 20 or 40 points spent and 6 activations.
Yeah. Which is pretty weak. So let's keep going. We've got Varamir, we've got 3 raiders, we've got the boar. Let's go to NCUs.
All right.
So we know we're running spam. We know we're running lots of units that do lots of things. We'll go straight in with Lady Val. We know we're running an infantry-based list, so we'll also pick up Craster. And then we'll leave the 3rd slot for now. We'll see how it feels. I already know where we're going to go with this for myself. But,
all right.
We'll get there. So, we now have a few choices, right? We are at 28 points. We have 12 points remaining. We have a few different options. We have 6 unique activations with 2 NCUs, so a 6-2 currently. 8 activations in total. We can go to 10 if we want, right? We can go to 10 by putting in 2 more FreeFolk Raiders with skin changes on if we want that route. We're at 4 skin changer units. Don't you just love it? And then we can also pick up a third NCU. We could pick up something like Jon Snow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's 12 points. You're now on an 11 activation list.
So that is the so-called spam list. So much about raiders having 2 or 3 is fine.
Yeah, this is a complete spam.
Yeah.
This is a list I genuinely might think about running. I'm not joking when I say that this is this could be considered a top tier list. I don't like this list myself. I personally would probably lose a raider unit and move some things around.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a viable list. Does that annoy you? It annoys me.
It annoys me a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it is very one-dimensional, but that is the beauty, as you said, of the FreeFolk. It is viable. So a lot of skin changes, because I think the list is only possible because of the skin changes, because they offer such a variety of options with their animals, and Varamir himself also offers a lot of things. So that is one of the lists you could probably run with a lot of raiders. We just save that as a Varamir spam. And then we will try to build a new list with some requests, or with some challenges along the way. So we'll start fresh from the beginning. And this time, because we have this wonderful tier list, let's build a viable list with a lot of the S tier, with some of the A tier, and you're only allowed to pick one box from the B list. You don't have to include every box, but that would be the challenge for this build a list thing. What do you think would be a viable list with those options, and making use of some of these new boxes you want to play around with?
So I actually think this comes back to what I was kind of saying about my second list and what people might not realize is like viable.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go in and we're going to go with a Tormund commander. Okay.
All right.
We're going to put him in. We're going to put him in Followers of the Bone.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Interesting
then going to
choice.
pick up a unit of Spearwives. And we're going to put Harmer in here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're then going to pick Harmer into Tormund's unit.
A lot of healing.
We're then going to pick Jarl into Tormund's unit.
Oh, there we go. 3 attachment unit.
3 attachments. Let's go. We'll go further, right? So this is what we've got so far. We could actually look at putting Harmer's Bannerman inside Harmer's unit. That's not a bad choice. Explain why that's a good choice in a minute, if need be.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what we could look at. We're then going to pick up a unit of FreeFolk Raiders. And we're going to include a skin changer.
Of course.
We're going to pick up a second unit of FreeFolk Raiders. And in this one, we're going to pick up a Spearwife Matriarch.
Interesting choice. With a swift retreat.
We're going to pick up a Chariot.
Oh, I think I scrolled past them. There we go.
We're going to pick up Lady Val.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to pick up 5-point Mance Bard.
Uh-huh. All right.
And finally, we can finish off with, let's go, Thruster Ygritte, both good choices. I'm going to go Ygritte this time.
I think Ygritte is a very good choice. Ignoring hindering and rough, especially with the frozen short chariot and +1 move. That is pretty nice. I have a 7 move unit.
Yep.
So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 activations. Which I oftentimes find quite odd because it is just one more activations as the other factions with 7. But what I'm particularly
Quite a
interested
lot of
in,
people running 8.
yeah,
There's a lot
yeah,
of people
probably.
running 8. So.
What I'm especially interested in is why followers of Bone with the 3 guy attachments, and why not Spearwives? My first instinct was to switch these units around. Why the followers of Bone?
So, what you want to do is you're obviously going to outflank,
Mhm.
and you're going to come on behind.
Mhm.
You want to have a unit behind the enemy that the enemy has to respect. This is the unit they have to respect. Also, this unit doesn't have Sentinel. All right?
Yeah.
Does have Tormund's cards, though.
With counter charge.
Tormund's cards has counter charge.
Yeah.
Or counter assault, isn't it, technically?
Yeah, it's counter assault.
So,
Interesting.
the Spearwives in the front, I'll go charge Harmer. They're the one with Sentinel, it's fine. Then you get this charge you in the rear. You don't want this unit charging you in the rear.
No. Not with Sunring
scary
and
as anything.
Vicious.
You could also regroup and reform and swap Harmer with Harmer's Bannerman if you need to. So that's a very viable option, right? Similarly, you can put a Skin Changer or the Spearwife Matriarch into this unit. Get Jarl out of there. You don't want Jarl in that unit in the long run. Regroup and reform Jarl out and put Harmer, the Skin Changer, or the Spearwife Matriarch into your Followers of Bone.
Oh, I
Or
like
your
that.
Spearwife, if you want to. There's
Sweet.
lots of options. You can just play around with it. It's a bit of a build your own good units type thing, but it's some fun stuff.
Mhm.
And finally, you have the chariot in there because the chariot goes, right, I'm going to go slam into something and soften it up and make my opponent's decisions bad. All I have to do. All I have to do is make my opponent's decisions bad.
Yep.
And
That's sweet.
if they're bad enough, they might make a mistake.
How would you name that list? I like the idea behind it. Like
I don't know.
Torment from behind.
Expensive tour. I would call it expensive Tormund YOLO, but that's because I name things really dumb. So.
Expensive Torment YOLO. That's it. Okay, so I think we got a spam list with Varamir. We got a nice, pretty Torment list with different units. So I think there's only one missing thing, right? And that is mag. I mean, we can't leave here without a mag list. Even though I think you don't like it as much, but we can't leave here without building a mag list for all those guys that just love giants. So we start off with mag.
Yep. Straight away, if you're building FreeFolk, mag is obviously a really good choice. Let's go for a spear thrower.
Of course, I think he has to be in there, one way or another.
And the next thing we're actually going to add is Lady Val. Strangely enough. Well, she's just so good with giants; it's unreal.
Yeah,
being
especially
able to give
with
an action from the board.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially with Chieftain's Orders, you can use the Giant Spear Thrower. And then you can Hurl Boulder, for example. You just replace that action.
Yep.
There we go.
Give your giant a maneuver from the board and then replace it with a ranged attack. That's pretty OP. So yeah, that's your kind of next thing for me, I would suggest. And then we're on to some of kind of like the more choice picks, really. You're 16 points in and you've kind of already got to the point where you can do what you want. I think myself, if I was making the list, I would probably go for activations being powerful. So you're going to pick up Varamir, you're going to pick up the Shadow Cat, and you're going to pick up the Wolf Pack.
Yep.
That gives you 16 points left. My gut instinct is to then jump to your NCUs and probably pick up 5-point Mance Bard. You can also pick up 4-pointer. Up to you.
Yeah, I like Mance 5 points. Especially with a giant spear thrower, because the classic move is to put him on the swords, just throw a spear with unlimited range, -3 to hit, ignoring line of sight, and influencing the unit that is being hit, especially if it's cavalry or monster or solo tray. You deal some damage, and he cannot heal because he cannot target them with the tactic zone. That's what Mance Raider Deceptive Bard does.
Yeah.
Disrupting communication. Because he's singing so loud.
It's true.
Okay.
It is.
Still 11 points. And we already
11
got
points.
5, 6, 7 activations. That's just great.
You know where we're going, don't you? It should be fairly obvious. 11 points. That is, if you're going to take a 4-point NCU, gives you 7 point less over. So you can pick up another NCU. I personally would go for a grit. I think a grit's
what do you
probably the
think
best.
about Dala?
Oh yeah, you can go with this. The problem with Dala is that like her bag's ability's crap with giants.
Yeah.
So you don't care really that much with the giants and that ability, and there's nothing in this list that's like going to be 1 or 2 damage. Like who cares? The Crown's ability is good for the weakened tokens. I do think that's the reason you take her. The Letters ability is not so good, but remember with your giants, you want to give them more actions. So you're looking for an NCU that's going to be taking the horses or swords instead of Mance, although most of the time you're opening with Mance. Ygritte is a good shout here. To be honest, I don't hate Dala for taking crowns and letters, which are kind of secondary tier zones. But realistically, bags is still a very good option, and I just think that Dala's going to go on a zone that you don't want to take.
Yeah.
And Dala's going to be going on zones that Val is going to be taking anyway. So Dala is your pass NCU of the 3. Dala's the one that always gets passed with. And therefore, if we're not passing, we're either taking horses, swords, or letters, or bags. And she doesn't do anything on any of those zones that I care about that much.
Yeah. So let's go with Ygritte, because
Yeah.
quick
If I wanna take
giants are
crowns-
better giants.
If I want to take crowns, I'm just probably going to put Val on there, you know?
Yep, probably. And then we got 7 points left over.
Which is a giant. Your choice of which one you want. I think with the changes to Savage Giants, the melee change and things like that, you could go for a melee giant rather than a ranged one. But neither is a bad option. The sad truth is the ranged giant, the spear thrower, might actually still be the better choice. But I'm not going to say it is, because I can't say with fact that it is. It just might be.
Yeah, probably. I will go with a Savage Giant, because we cannot include Wun Wun because we have the 5-point NCU Mance. So let's put in a Savage Giant we got in the starter box anyway, and have another melee threat that is not to be ignored. Yeah, that's fine. So that is Mag. Mag the Mighty. And Animals.
Mag the
With his
Mighty.
petting zoo. With his zoo. Okay. All right. So 3 lists. All pretty viable. All absolute different playstyles. all using different boxes. I think this shows especially how versatile FreeFolk can be. And just to round things up here, let's go into the deployment zone right here. Just to give a quick example for the people watching and listening on how to deploy FreeFolk. I think putting 9 units on the table would be a bit much, and I think I would be most interested about the torment list, because there are so many different units. There's so much to think about, to swap out, to swap in, where to position the spear wives and using their sentinel. Where would you put the FreeFolk raiders with the spear wife matriarch, etc. So yeah, let's go with this list, and let's
Okay.
see how you would deploy them. So you can just join the game. I'm currently in the Song of Ice and Fire sim. Game name is Lokibri, and you can just load in the list. I will send it to you. And I will play, I don't know, what are you going to face? Probably like some Lannister stuff with Tivin Bomb.
Oh God.
It's just the
Yeah, I
deployment, Mickey.
suppose.
It's fine. It's just the
I
deployment.
know. It's the only thing I ever play against anymore. All right, okay. The
I will send you the list just so you can export it.
It's all right. The sim, I can't actually connect to the sim website. There's a hitch
Oh.
you didn't think would come.
Yeah.
Just gonna double check.
Otherwise, I will just do both of it.
Yeah, I can explain.
That's
I
it.
can explain it to you anyway. It's easily enough done.
Okay, I will just export
Yeah,
it. No problem.
the website's not working for me.
That is
Mm,
kind of strange.
isn't it? How odd.
The website in general?
Well,
Oh, the game.
yeah, no, the Song of Ice and Fire Sim website
Okay.
is not working.
Well,
Oh, there we
no
go.
problem.
I loaded it again and it worked. Well, I say loaded it again. I loaded it multiple times and it decided to work. So right, I'll quickly log in.
Okay, then
Okay.
I will just delete those units.
6 and 2 3s. Doesn't really matter. What was the password?
You can choose one because it's only for you to reconnect.
Oh, yeah.
But game name is
I
Lokibri with
forget
a
that it does it differently.
capital L. Ah, there we go. Your name is Yakubuto there, but it doesn't matter.
I don't even know how my name is that, but that's fine.
It's probably because you spectated the last thing.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I would just
Right.
pick one of my Lannister lists. They are not good. I'm just trying to try something out. Yeah, that looks fine. That is everything I want. Kevin first try Condi spam, so be careful. You can load the list in right here on the button.
Give me a second.
Yeah, no worries. Which game mode would you play that list in?
There we go. Oh God, that's a good question. One of them.
Okay.
I would. It depends on what my opponent's running. I would probably run this against a low cav list in something like Feast for Crows, Dance. I'd run it in every game mode, to be honest. I run the list based on my opponent, not the game mode. This is a list based on the opponent I'm facing, not the game mode.
Okay.
And when I say opponent, I mean somewhat my opponent's list, and also my opponent as in the person.
Okay. Interesting.
I build lists to face people as much as I build lists to face lists.
All right.
Because like that's just me, but the way people play is very different.
Mhm.
And when you're playing at the highest level, you need to think about how somebody plays rather than necessarily how the list and game works.
All right.
You can beat some players before the game even starts by understanding how they play. So
yeah, that's an interesting
important.
perspective into the mindset of
It's
playing.
why in a tournament setting is a really good example. Isaac Pajo, in practice sessions, practice games, he beats me all the time. Probably beats me more than I beat him in practice. In a tournament setting, I've wiped the floor with him in every game.
Interesting.
Because I play in a very different way,
Mhm.
and I think about the game very differently. So
All right.
anyway,
can you load in the list?
I thought I did. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I'm having poor connections. Oh, apologies. Do you want to try loading it in? It's not playing ball with me at all.
Yeah. So don't worry, I will just delete the Lannisters.
No,
Or
it's all right. Hang on. Give me a second.
there
There we
we go.
go. Right. This time.
There we go. All right.
About 3 times loading.
So we are Feast for Crows. Let's just do a quick setup. There we go.
Yeah.
I rolled a 5. Let's just put in some of those terrain stuff. So what do you like with FreeFolk? What
Terrain.
kind of terrain?
Terrain. You name it, I like it.
Terrain in general.
Yeah, I don't care. It's not
You don't
actually
care.
that important. Weirwoods are the worst. Weirwoods are the most boring. I'd run Weirwoods against probably run Weirwoods. No, I wouldn't run Weirwoods against your list. I'd run I don't know. Probably just be miserable to be
I think
honest.
stakes are horrible for Lancer. Yeah.
I wouldn't run stakes against you. I'd have an absolutely miserable time with the crossbowmen using them as a palisade. And it would just kill my solos completely.
So I would just go for a wall because I fear the followers of Bone.
Yep. I will add in the obvious pick, which is one of these.
Yeah. And I think I would just copy the wall, put it there, because if you want to change, I still want to have a wall on my back.
So where are we at? We're at there. So I'm going to put this.
All right.
Can't actually. Somewhere like that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So last roll, it's a 6 for me.
It's a 5 for me.
For you. Oh, that's difficult. Okay, I would switch sides.
Okay.
And would choose you to go first.
Yep.
So you would start off with the chariots.
Yep. Always the chariot. There's never any point not using the chariot. Sorry, it's very, very laggy. Apologies.
Oh, no problem. I can put him on the line if you want.
Yeah, I'd also turn him 50%.
Of course.
Or turn him 90 degrees. Yeah, to gain it. The reason you do this is you gain an extra bit of movement.
Yeah.
Put him pretty much right in the pretty much bang in the middle of the board. Right.
Because he has a free calf move, you can just move around.
Yeah.
and then still have some inches more. Yeah, I would just start with the Poofellows, I think.
Yep.
Just right there.
I'll put my unit into outflank.
Yeah. I would go with the core unit itself, just positioning them right there. All right. Where would you go then?
I was just spawning my bear in. There's going to be a raider unit opposite your, like in this gap.
Yeah.
So somewhere like there.
Mhm.
And that's going to come with a bear, which will go, depending on the bear's spawn rules and what we're using, I'll put it within short distance of this unit. So basically likely to be in this gap here.
A little bit of a roadblock, right?
Yeah, it needs to be fully within 6. So
yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah. Yeah, I would go with the crossbows in the middle because they don't want to be flanked.
Yep. And then I'll finish it off with raiders with the spearwife over here.
Yeah. And I would go with the calf on this side.
And armor's going to go here.
Cool.
Sorry, this is really, really hard to do.
No
with
worries.
the
No
lag.
worries. It's
Okay.
fine. Okay, so yeah, you with this setup you can either go for the objectives. I still have to respect those fellows of bone in the back of the poor fellows because I think they would just just smoke them. And oh my god, yeah, that's horrible for me because the cavalry is on the other side and probably has to defend some of the poor fellows. Because they are not the sturdiest. So yeah, it's a nice list. Great things. Thank you, Mickey, for showing us the way to free folk, the way to join the tribes of the free folk. And I just look at the chat if there are any questions left we did not answer yet, but that doesn't.
I will add a disclaimer here, right? I would never play this list into this matchup. I think you'd actually have a miserable time. And I do think that the Lannister list you're running here is close to being one of the better lists in the game right now. I don't think this list would compare, but that's not to say this isn't useful into certain things. And I don't actually think this matchup is awful for me. It just isn't amazing.
Yeah.
I think if you're talking about the list, it's got to be, and I know answering Chris's question, the best list. It's got to be the bear spam, unfortunately, because of deep striking bears, which, you know, is a strategy that is viable and the designers of the game have said is an allowable strategy, even if I think that that's wrong. But it is allowed by the rules and it's allowed by the designers, so it is what it is.
That's interesting because I did not have the most recent perspective of the designers that said it is okay.
They actually straight up have said in a recorded video that they know about it and it is legal.
Oh, okay. So, that is new to me. But
enjoy.
we will end on a we will end on a very good note because I think you showed us a lot that FreeFolk can do even without deep striking bears. You gave us a lot of insight to the units. I mean, there is no better thing than buy each and every box you want to buy. Models that look cool or you want to try out. It is not wrong to go with each and every single box in the FreeFolk faction, and you can do viable things with all of them, being the core on the starter box and Heroes 1, and then building up from there. So any words you want to say to the wonderful Hits and Crits community from your side, from your perspective of the FreeFolk?
Keep being awesome. And play the game and enjoy the game for what it is. FreeFolk have lots and lots of options. There are multiple ways, like even just talking about this today, and you showed me this kind of list from the Lannisters. I might build something very different to face into this. I might think about like Stark Tully Cavalier spam, and I might think about something different that could work into that. And it would amalgamate into a Varamir list where perhaps I don't run 11 activations or 12 activations. I run a variation of it that runs 10, but then I have a mix of the good units and those tech pieces we spoke about. I might look at a Tormund list that looks a little bit different to this one we've built today. And it has a few different tools in it and a few different things I could be doing. I've run a 6 activation FreeFolk list previously and a 7 activation FreeFolk list previously that aren't mag commander lists, and these are like Tormund commander lists or Rattleshirt commander lists that I think could just be fun and interesting to play around with. These are all things you can do, and they are not terrible. Some of them aren't good. I will freely admit that some of them aren't good, but they're not terrible. I ran 7 activation Tormund list into completely meta 9 activation Jon Snow, and I only lost by 1 point against a very, very good player. And so, nice. These things are viable. These things are options you can do. Just with FreeFolk, find the thing you want to do and run it. And we're not talking about competitive viability here. We're talking about there's a lot of things in FreeFolk that are fine and good, and you can take to a tournament and do well with, and certainly win best in faction with. If you want to win a tournament, then you'll have to go a little bit more cookie cutter. Certainly if it's a big event.
Yeah.
But that's the true of any faction,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not just FreeFolk, it's everyone.
Yeah, but that is such a good note to end on. If there is one thing FreeFolk can do, they are adaptive and they are versatile, and you have lots and lots of options to play around with and fiddle with your lists and adapt them until you are finally happy, because they offer such a vast variety of options. So in this case, Mickey, 2 hours gone. As you often mentioned in the turning grounds, play the game, have fun, enjoy FreeFolk. And with this, I would like to thank you especially for being the guest here in the office hour, which was now the office hours because we just spent 2 hours together. And it is, such a valuable lesson for us all. And hopefully some more people will try to join into the FreeFolk and enjoy the adaptiveness and variety of them. So thank you very, very much. And I wish you all a very good night, and maybe just look into the shops. Maybe there is a FreeFolk starter. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
Definitely.
Come for the hits and stay for the crits.